Let's talk about foreigner entitlement in the Philippines. I just had an intense, unexpected argument with a stranger in a cafe, and my heart is still pounding. Earlier, I was in Starbucks Ayala Center, Cebu. I grabbed coffee and lunch before running my errands at the mall. I needed to make a quick phone call to my boyfriend about our upcoming trip to Palawan, and I realized my headphones weren't working. Just to give you a little bit of context, the Starbucks in Ayala Center, Cebu is like a two-story, but when you come in, you're on the second floor, and then there's a downstairs, which is like a basement type. The downstairs is usually where people tend to go if they want to work in silence, and then the upstairs is where the traffic is more frequent, and I've seen a lot of meetings happen there, so I specifically stayed upstairs. I had to put my boyfriend on a speaker because I couldn't hear him well. Out of nowhere, this stranger beside me taps me on my shoulder and said, "Do you have headphones?" And I said, "No, but this is just a quick call." And then he talked to me again and said, "Well, this is not your living room or your office to be talking that loud." I mean, whoa. But I said, "This is a public place." And he says, "Well, you can't just do whatever you want." That's when I got a little bit triggered. He looks like a foreigner, he sounds like a foreigner, and so I said, "This is my country, I can do whatever I want." And that's when he got super aggressive and he said, "This is also my country. I have a permanent resident card and I bring money to this country." I wish I had a massive comeback for that, but honestly, I didn't know what to say. I was starting to get scared. He was a big guy, and what if it gets physical? But also, there was a big part of me that didn't want to back down. And I thought, wala na ba jud tay laban if permanent resident na ang foreigner nga ga-intimidate sa naturally born Filipino? I told him, "You can leave." And then he got up, went to talk to the manager, and then came back. And I should have stopped already, pero I was so angry and I felt like gisaniban ko sa espiritu ni Lapu-Lapu. So when he sat down again, I asked, "Are you leaving?" And obviously that set him off. So he went on and I went on. And I couldn't even remember what we were saying. I just remember that he was twisting my words and he was saying I was rude and I won't stop talking to him when I was really minding my own business, and he was the one who started this. I started to call for help, and I remember the guy on another table was waving at the staff and pointing at our table. And after a while, the manager and the security guard came over to listen to both sides. First of all, kudos to the manager Rhea of Starbucks and the security guard of Ayala. I think they handled it both really well. The manager both apologized to me and to him, and then the manager Rhea said, "Sir, she is allowed to have a phone call because this is a public cafe." And then he complained and he said, "I asked for your help first." But Rhea stood firm and said, "I'm sorry, sir, but she is allowed to have a phone call." And then the manager left, and before the security guard left, he checked on me and asked if I'm okay, and I asked if he's gonna be around, and he said that he's just outside. He refused to move, and my petty butt was not going to move either. I was terrified, but I was on fire at the same time. Like in my head, no, not a chance. I will finish this phone call. Like I said, Lapu-Lapu spirit took over 50% of my soul. So before anyone comes at me in the comments, yes, my boyfriend was in the phone call the entire time. And yes, he is a foreigner, and probably half of my inner circle of friends are foreigners as well. So let me be 100% clear that this isn't hate against foreigners. This is specifically about the entitled ones. I welcome anyone who respects our country. Look, I get it. In Western culture, taking a phone call on speaker in a cafe is a pet peeve. But in the Philippines, malls, cafes, jeepneys, our baseline is social and loud. And if I personally don't like the noise, I put headphones on. And if I don't have one, I walk away because I understand my culture. And being a permanent resident, understanding and respecting the culture should be your first and foremost responsibility. And bringing money to the Philippines does not give you the right to talk down to locals or act like you own the place. So what can we actually do when these non-naturally born Filipinos disrespect us? Well, I got my answer when I left the cafe and I was walking in the mall having quite a panic attack and came across a conversation with two Australians. I told them what happened and they said permanent residency does not give anyone immunity. When I got home, I Googled a little bit more, And he says that verbal abuse and harassment are grounds for police intervention and even complaints with the Bureau of Immigration for undesirable immigrants. And if it turns physical, criminal charges and deportation are real consequences. So these permanent residents, their behavior has repercussions. They don't get to just pull out these PR cards because these cards can get taken away from them. I was lucky he didn't get physical with me because I'm a 5-foot period Filipina and he's about a 6'2" with a half brain. But what about those who do get hurt and bullied into submission? Our weapon is to really stand our ground, know our rights, film for safety if needed, and most importantly, we need to be supporting each other, just like what the manager and the security guard did for me, which I am very, very grateful for. So to all my fellow Filipinos watching this, do not let anyone shrink us in our own home. We are expressively, naturally, and beautifully loud. We talk with our hands. We laugh out loud. If the max volume of a speaker is 10, Filipinos will find a way to make it to 15. We live lively. This is our culture, and we should not be apologetic about it. Never apologize for taking up space in the country we are naturally born into. Filipinos,
my brothers and sisters, hope you are fine wherever you are watching from. Welcome to the channel once again. So they say that a person's behavior is like a skin, you can't change it. So these white supremacists have that behavior of looking down on anyone from a different race. They feel entitled no matter where they are. So these are Philippines. This is Philippines, where people are very kind and welcoming. They did that knowing that these were good people. They never knew what they were up to. So the very behavior that these people have when they are in their country, the disrespect, the looking down on people from other races, the colonization, they even want to chase the natives and settle on their land by force, and they want to dictate everything that should go on in that country. So great people, let's watch this compilation until the end, and I'll be back with a little discussion. Remember, all credit goes to the original creators of these videos. I'm your host, Edaf.
I'm here! Come here! Where is he? What are you going to? Enough. Very here. I'm here to fight. Fucking down!
The aggressions from microaggressions to even bigger incidents are forms of neocolonization. One very big problem we have with community centers is how they openly market themselves as a retreat for their armed forces. Like fresh out of war, they'll ship them to my country, to Thailand, to India, so they can blow off steam, which is what they do. They have their own raves, they have their own events, they have their exclusive cultural gatherings or whatever. My country is not prepared for this mental health crisis that they are dumping upon my people. It makes us feel very displaced and disrespected and almost helpless. We've been here centuries, and suddenly this new group of people is trying to insert themselves. They're on tourist visas, right? But their intention is not to be tourists. They're trying to settle here. There's a huge tendency for them to disrespect people of other cultures. There are cases of them talking down to Filipinos, talking down to other Asians, treating us like we're lesser than them. They came back on a different day and they broke into the cafe, they vandalized the place, they caused property damage, and they assaulted the owners, and then they left. They feel like they can just move here and take over spaces and displace our own people just because they're many or just because they have some money.
So Israelis are colonizing the Philippines right now. They're currently taking over the island of Siargao, which is kind of ironically located in the middle east side of the Philippines. It's known for surfing, it's known for the palm tree forests, it's known for crystal clear blue waters. But these Israelis, some are identifying as Zionists, are attacking local LGBTQ people, disrupting and destroying local communities. They're building an Israeli heritage center, which nobody asked for. So when we say liberation for all, this is exactly what we're talking about. It doesn't stop with Palestine, it doesn't stop with Lebanon, it doesn't stop with Thailand. If you don't know, Israelis are also trying to colonize Thailand right now, and it won't stop with the Philippines. And Israel's abuse of the Philippines is well documented. There's many instances of Filipinos going to Israel to work as OFWs, which is overseas Filipino workers, to work as nurses or to work in childcare. And Israelis will steal the passports of these Filipinos so that they can't leave. It's this forced indentured servitude. I'm half Korean, half Filipino American, and we're already seeing how much influence Israel has over Korea as well. So much of K-beauty is a byproduct of Israeli research. So if you're Filipino or Korean, Thai, or just Asian in general, or if you live in America and you think that what is going on in the Middle East does not affect us, you're just so wrong. And it's just so upsetting because Filipinos are like the most hospitable people. Like, we are so community-based, always want to help other people. And to see that, like, not only get taken advantage of, but for Filipinos to now have their land being stolen from them, like, we need to go back to our ancestors. We need to remember what we did to Magellan, which, if you don't know, look up the history. To put it lightly, we sent him packing.
Oh, hell no, not in my homeland. What the fuck is this? We are not doing this. Not in the Philippines. Not like this. This is absolutely unacceptable. Let's get something straight. Siargao is not the West Bank. It's not a soft launch for an Israeli lifestyle experiment. It's not a place where you plant a flag, build your own bubble, and start acting like you run it. That island belongs to the Filipino people, full stop. What we're seeing isn't tourism. This is organized occupation. Long-term stays, community infrastructure is being built, a religious center being planted, groups creating their own ecosystem inside someone else's culture, like it's interchangeable. That is unacceptable. And let me be very clear before someone tries to get this twisted. This isn't about religion. This is not about nationality. This is about respect. Because respect looks like adapting to a place where you enter. Respect looks like understanding you're a guest. This is entitlement. Locals are speaking up. They're talking about cultural disruption. They're talking about customs being ignored. They're organizing petitions. They're saying this isn't right. You don't walk into someone else's home, start rearranging it to your liking, invite your entire circle, and act confused when the owner says enough. This is not a good look for Israelis. If you enter someone else's country, you respect it. You follow their culture. You move with humility. You don't recreate your own version of home and expect everyone else to follow along. Siargao is not your land. It is not your experiment. It is not yours to take over. It is not yours to occupy. It is not yours to colonize. It is a home to the Filipino people. And right now, those people who actually belong there are angry. And they have every right to do so.
There is a pattern emerging, and we cannot keep pretending it is just isolated incidents. Sa Siargao, there have been documented complaints from locals. Verbal abuse, entitlement, reckless behavior, and open disrespect for community norms. May mga reports na tourists calling locals maids or slaves, driving aggressively through quiet barangays, trashing rentals, ignoring curfews, and acting as if rules don't apply to them. Hindi na ito chismis lang ha. There are testimonies, videos, and community statements that point to the same direction. And when incidents like these pile up, hindi na ito simpleng tourism problem. This becomes a governance issue. Mas mabigat pa dito, there are growing concerns that some groups are beginning to systematize their presence, clustering in certain areas, establishing their own community centers or religious bases, and creating pockets of influence where they operate by their own internal norms. Let's be clear, freedom of religion is protected. Walang problema doon. But when that presence begins to translate into exclusivity, control, or behavior that sidelines the local community, That is no longer just cultural expression. That is a question of compliance with Philippine law and respect for local sovereignty. Now let's draw the line clearly and responsibly. We are not anti-Jewish. We are not anti-Israeli. We are anti-abuse. Because the law does not care where you come from. Under the 1987 Constitution, foreigners cannot own land. Hindi pwedeng daanin sa damis, fronts, or layered arrangements. That is illegal. And kahit turista ka lang, you are bound by our laws and rules. Local ordinances, environmental laws, community standards. No exceptions. No special treatment. Now, here is the deeper truth. Siargao is not just a destination. It is home. And when locals begin to say, parang kami na ang nakikitira sa sarili naming isla, that is not exaggeration. That is displacement in its earliest form. But we stay disciplined. We do not generalize. We do not demonize an entire people. Because many come in peace, with respect. But those who come with entitlement, those who harass, who disrespect, who try to bend the system, who impose instead of integrate, they must be confronted legally, firmly. Hindi pwedeng ngitian lang dahil turista. Hindi pwedeng palampasin dahil may pera. Because sovereignty is not for sale. Hospitality is not submission. And Siargao is not a space that can be quietly taken over by behavior, by influence, or by silence. It is ours. And the law must make sure it stays that way. Another day,
the story in Siargao is getting worse. Here's the latest update on the allegations involving Israeli tourists. So let me get this straight. You fly to a tropical island as a tourist, set up your own religious center, your own school, and then terrorize the very people whose home you occupy. That's not tourism. That's colonization. Who does that? According to reports from Rolling Stone Philippines and testimony from local residents, some Israeli nationals have been harassing, intimidating, physically assaulting, and disrespecting the local community. Residents say these individuals aren't acting like guests. They're acting like they own the place. Filipinos are known worldwide for their warmth, hospitality, generosity. Welcoming people into our communities is part of the culture. That kindness should never be mistaken for weakness, and it should never be exploited by visitors who think they can disrespect the very people opening their doors to them. Local activists, business owners, LGBTQ+ residents, and members of the
Filipinos say Israelis are taking over this protected island, and locals are fighting back.
The aggressions from microaggressions to even bigger incidents are forms of neocolonization.
Siargao is a protected island, and Filipinos want to preserve its marine life. But in recent years, Israelis have flocked to the island after serving in the military during the genocide in Gaza. Siargao locals have held protests against the influx of Israeli tourists.
In August 2023, a Chabad house, or Hasidic Jewish Community Center, was opened in Siargao to exclusively house other Israelis.
Local residents said the business was illegal and didn't have the permit to operate. Many say the Chabad house also hosts parties until the early hours and disrespects neighbors. And despite locals protesting, the owners are continuing with the expansion of the Chabad project anyway.
One very big problem we have with community centers like the Chabad house that's being established is how they openly market themselves as a retreat for their armed forces. Like fresh out of war, they'll ship them to my country, to Thailand, to India, so they can blow off steam, which is what they do. They like have their own raves, they have their own events, they have their exclusive cultural gatherings or whatever. My country is not prepared for this mental health crisis that they are dumping upon my people.
Locals in Siargao say Israelis are building illegally, threatening and attacking business owners, and harassing the island's LGBTQ community.
It makes us feel very displaced and disrespected and almost helpless. We've been here centuries and suddenly this new group of people is trying to like insert themselves. They're on tourist visas, right? But their intention is not to be tourists. They're trying to settle here.
Locals have also reportedly complained online that Israelis have refused to pay restaurant bills and even called Filipino staff slaves. And Rich believes it's part of a wider issue of Israeli tourists acting superior to Filipinos.
There's a huge tendency for them to disrespect people of other cultures. There are cases of them talking down to Filipinos, talking down to other Asians, treating us like we're lesser than them.
In May, a group of Israeli tourists reportedly attacked a cafe on the island that displayed a Palestinian flag, assaulting one of its Filipino owners and damaging the property.
They came back like on a different day, and they broke into the cafe. They vandalized the place, they caused property damage, and they assaulted the owners, and then they left. The reports say that they were masked individuals.
In December of 2021, the Philippines was hit by Typhoon Odette. Residents in Siargao spent years trying to rebuild their communities after infrastructure was damaged and clean water access became more difficult. But the influx of tourists is making the recovery and rebuilding harder.
They feel like they can just move here and take over spaces and displace our own people just because they're many or just because they have.
I will never understand why foreigners come out to the Philippines or any country for that matter and act like complete fools. I see this day in and day out here in the Philippines, and it's the exact reason why I live as far away as possible from more foreigners. Like, why the fuck would you come all the way out here to walk around with your shirt off like you own the place, drink copious amounts of alcohol, jump up and down like a fucking idiot at all the clubs, start fights, and then disrespect all the locals? Like, dudes are really coming out here and barking like a dog in people's faces. They're stealing shit, breaking shit, and they just completely ruin the peace here. That type of behavior barely even slides in the West, but they'll come out here thinking they could do the same shit that they do back home. And it's just super unfortunate that people have to deal with that type of behavior here. Like, for instance, I love the island of Siargao. It's a beautiful island and it has so much to offer. But the amount of times I've seen with my own two eyes other foreigners disrespecting the locals is just, it makes me not want to go there. I can't even imagine how the locals feel. These types of people are ruining travel and
Another foreign national has been arrested in the Philippines, just as Vitaly has been released from prison and is now being deported back to Russia after spending 9 months in Philippine jail. Another foreigner, who is also a content creator, has been arrested in the Philippines for allegedly harassing Filipinos. The YouTuber accused of this is an Estonian national who uploaded videos of himself going up to members of public, and often minors, without consent. Videos circulated online of him chasing and asking inappropriate questions to people, in some cases to underage women. He even filmed himself making non-consensual physical contact to other women, despite him being married to another Filipina. A search warrant was conducted at his residence, prior to which he deleted over 100 of his YouTube videos. After an investigation, he was later arrested, but unlike Vitaly, who, as I mentioned earlier, spent 9 months in jail, this Estonian YouTuber will not face the same punishment. Instead, is simply getting deported and blacklisted from the Philippines, at least based off the reports we currently have. Even though I don't condone the behaviour on some of his videos, I still feel for his family in the Philippines. So let this be another wake-up call, especially for foreigners in the Philippines. Stick to the rules and conduct yourself well. Don't treat the country like it's yours.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you for watching this video until this point, where I have to give my 2 cents. So in my country, we say that when you go to Rome, you should follow what they always do. That means that when you go to a new place, you should watch their culture and follow it, even if you don't agree with it. So when you watch this compilation, you will realize that Philippines are very kind-hearted people. They are very welcoming and always have that respect to others. But when you see these visitors, you will realize that these people take these Philippines kindness for their weakness. You know, when you start bad behavior to those people who have shown you their kindness, that is a very bad form of disrespect. I see this as a kind of colonization where we saw people from other continents go to say Africa. They get welcomed very well. They didn't know the motive of these people. When they came, they were very nice to these Africans. But when they saw how these Africans' kindness, they took that kindness for weakness and started doing awkward things and behavior. And before these Africans realized it was too late, they were overpowered by these whites and went ahead to take their land and even took their families to unknown destinations. So when you see these whites, not all but some of them go to Philippines and start to this behavior. This must raise eyebrows because this thing to colonize other people is in their blood. They see themselves as superiors and to look down upon all other races. No matter what you do to them, they are always disrespectful. They see other races as second-class humans, and they also feel like other people don't deserve to live in this world. So Philippines are now the target of these people. They always did this to blacks, but now they are crossing borders to go and oppress them. So they are in Philippines with the same kind of behavior. They don't even realize that these are the natives of this land and country. Now they are coming in by force. They want everything to belong to them. They want to force these people from that place so that they can take the land and take these peoples as their slaves to work for them for free or cheap labor. What interests me the most is the way that government is dealing with these individuals. They are being handed down and being deported immediately where they belong or where those behaviors are accepted. And what is helping these most is the presence of cameras all over, and anyone can record that what is going on and expose. There is no way someone can go scot-free. You know, these white supremacists see themselves as small gods on this earth, no matter which place they are in, be it in Europe or anywhere else across the globe. They feel privileged and can do anything that they feel is good to them, never minding what others feel about. They never mind if anybody can get offended. They see they can come into your business, take whatever they want and walk out without paying for the goods or services that he has received. But I see the Filipinos come out against these people with their behaviors. They are standing their ground and calling out these people with their behavior. They are coming out and exposing them without fear. So great people, I really want to know what you think. So drop them into the comment section. Also like and share this video to a like-minded person, and also consider subscribing. See you on my next episode.